Everybody, had to unplug my auxiliary cable from my phone. I did an instant review for a movie earlier this week. I can't remember what I had seen at the preview, but I did an instant review and then never. I had to delete it because it didn't. You couldn't hear anything. I think it's because I had the sound plugged in. Hopefully, hopefully this is recording sound right now. It should be going out live. It's about 12:15. Here in Nashville, Tennessee. I went to a 10 o'clock screening of a new movie by Lynn Ramsey. It's called You Were Never Really Here. It stars Joaquin Phoenix. I didn't know a whole lot about this movie going into it. I watched the trailer. The trailer seems a little old boyish, you know, if you guys have seen Old Boy or the remake of Old Boy, which I think is also called Old Boy. I haven't seen the remake, but I saw the original Korean film, and the movie is a bit like that. I mean, essentially, I would call it a revenge movie in a way, although not quite as explicitly as Old Boy or other movies that might come to mind. It also reminded me a little bit of a Jim Jarmusch film called Ghost Dog, which stars Forrest Whitaker as a sort of Ronin for hire, sort of a lone samurai in contemporary New York. Very good movie. This movie's sort of like that in a way. Less humor than Ghost Dog. Ghost Dog's got some really funny stuff in it. This movie doesn't really have hardly any humor in it. And you wouldn't be surprised by that if you're familiar with Lynn Ramsey's movies. Excuse me if I'm saying something there that's incorrect. I could be. I've actually seen all of Ramsey's films, which include Ratcatcher and Morven Caller. But both of those movies came out a while ago, and I saw them when they came out, and I haven't seen them since. So I'm not a huge expert. She also did a movie called We Need to Talk About Kevin, I believe is the title of that, with Tilda Swinton. And I like that movie a lot. But in some ways, I like this movie much better. I saw online, I saw a review, I think it was from Vulture or something like that, where the reviewer was basically saying that, like, oh, well, this movie's got a lot of... I didn't actually read the whole review, but the little bit I read in the headline seemed to be saying this movie packs a punch, but it's not really up to Ramsey's usual poetic sensibilities. And I don't think I would agree with that. Again, I think I could do with a refresher course on Ramsey's films. That said, I don't remember... There's a reason why I haven't watched those movies again. It's not so much that they're not well done. I remember all of them being well done. The only reason I would have seen all of Ramsey's films is because I knew that she was a talented director and wanted to keep up with what she was doing. But all of her movies, they tend to be the kind of movies, number one, that I don't want to watch again just because of the nature of the movie, okay? So when you're talking about films like hers, which are commonly dealing with children, they're dealing with grief, they're dealing with guilt, and they're very heavy films. That's not really the kind of movie I'm seeking out all that often. You know, that's, you know, it has to be, I just don't go for dark emotional drama, you know, and I think I would classify her movies as this. In a way, she sort of reminds me of Mike Leigh a little bit, in the sense that Mike Leigh's, you know, especially his early movies, British director Mike Leigh, Leigh, his movies just always dealt with, you know, sort of like the grim working class life in contemporary Britain. You know what I mean? And I love that. I love him. I love that kind of movie. That said, I don't seek those movies out to watch over and over again, because there's a certain emotional brutality that happens in a movie like that. And it's just like, man, it's not the kind of thing I revisit. You know what I mean? I just the other day, just because it was on TV, I rewatched that Rodney Dangerfield comedy, Back to School, right? That was hilarious. It was fucking amazing. I loved it, and I would watch it again right now. But that's the kind of thing that you can revisit often. A great comedy you love, an action film you love, a genre film of any kind that you might love. For me, anyway, that's the kind of thing. I'm the kind of person who'll put a Cassavetes movie just on repeat and just sit through it again and again and just have it on while I'm doing stuff. So, and people might argue that there's a certain sort of, emotional trauma in films like the Cassavetes films. And that's true, but the Cassavetes films are more, I don't know, they're different in a way too. To me, the Cassavetes films are acting films for people who love acting. And this movie is that too. And I mean, many of her movies are that too. But there's just a real deep, dark emotionality and drama to Ramsey's films. It's why people love her movies. It's why she's respected widely as a director, and she deserves every bit of that. Again, that said, I'm not gonna seek out Lynn Ramsey films for repeated viewing. It's just not my bag. So, although I've liked all of her movies for sure, and certainly respect them all, but I gotta tell you, maybe some of the things I'm saying about like, seeking out like a genre film or something like that, maybe some of that speaks to why I like this new movie so much. I like this better than all the other movies. For sure. I think I'd go back and watch them again. I do think I would owe her that, and I do think I would love those movies again. I would see all the wonderful things that she's done. It'd be interesting to go back to Ratcatcher, and I think it's called Ratcatcher. There's something else called Rat Catching. I think that's a book. I think that's a book by Crispin Glover. I'm not kidding. I think his book is called Rat Catching, and her first movie, her first feature that she's known for anyway, is called Ratcatcher. But it would be interesting to go back to Ratcatcher, if only to watch the sort of progression through the films and see where she is now. And again, maybe this reviewer from Vulture is right. Maybe there is a lack of something here, but it's hard to imagine that that's possible, because this movie's got everything. And it's got everything you want, and it's got nothing you don't want. Okay, so let's talk about what it's got. It's got great photography. It's beautiful. Beautiful production. I mean, it really looks great. One of the things that I find mysterious in this movie is it's hard to place what time it's in. But I don't recall seeing any computer screens or cell phones. There's a bunch of payphones being used. And none of that to me strikes that. All of that seems like we're not in contemporary America. It seems like we're in America, and at some point they mentioned being in Ohio, I believe, Cincinnati or Toledo. I don't remember exactly where, but then he's back in New York, so it takes place. You get the impression that Joaquin Phoenix, sort of travels, around, often. I'm just going to talk about the aspects of the film that I love first before I say too much more about the story. But so it's the the design is great, the shots are beautiful. There's really imaginative use of like surveillance cameras or shots that are in the car mirrors and things like this. Really interesting ways of sort of giving the viewer the sense of the voyeuristic nature of the way this guy lives his life, and also the sort of the intimate perspective of his life that we're given as the viewer, because you definitely feel voyeuristic at times. You feel like you're seeing things. First of all, you're seeing things you don't usually see on movies, in movies, and what I'm talking about is certain habits of Joaquin Phoenix's character, who's also named Joe. Joe's character, where he has habits and things that he does that are bizarre, somewhat sexual, fucked up and dangerous. He's definitely a person who's on the edge of self-destruction, and you get the sense that the reason why he is in the life that he's in is because of that, because he has kind of loathing, a self-loathing, I think, probably. I don't know. I'm not like a psychiatrist or whatever. It's I don't know exactly what to say. He seems depressive as hell. He also seems like he might have some kind of anxiety disorder. He's taking some kind of like downers during the movie. You definitely have an understanding. And here I am just going to go into the story and the character. You definitely have an understanding that he has experienced abuse as a child. You get the sense that he, or, you know, yeah, on some level, he's been in an abusive, angry, fucked up family situation as a kid. You also get the sense that he might be a veteran. And it's obvious that he's a veteran of one of the Gulf wars, but I can't tell exactly what the timeline is with this movie, the setting, you know, in terms of what year is it. You know, it could be that he is a veteran of the first Gulf War. You know, you see soldiers in the desert wearing desert camouflage, but it could be from the first Gulf War of the early 90s. And, you know, frankly, the Joe character in this movie looks like he's probably around my age, maybe a little bit older, but certainly a contemporary. So, you know, this could be, you know, this movie could be taking place pre-internet. No, but it can't be, because he's like my age in the movie. I don't know, man. It's hard to say. But anyway, so that's one of the questions I have, and we're going to get back to that. I'm going to tell you that right now. The fact that I walk out of that movie and I have significant questions about, wait, did he experience abuse as a kid? Wait, was he a veteran? Wait, which war was that? Wait, have I seen any computers or cell phones? You know, I mean, I have a lot of questions walking out of this movie. But I understand enough that I don't give a shit about the fact that I have questions. And I 1000% would rather walk out of a theater with a head full of 5 questions that don't seem to be impeding my enjoyment of the movie. I don't feel like I'm confused at all, really. I feel like I'm a little unclear on some details. And guess what? Who cares? Because back to this list, the movie is just so incredibly well made that you realize that what you've had is a cinematic experience. You've experienced images that are probably a bit indelible. It's hard for me to tell you right now because I just walked out of the theater, but there are scenes in this movie that are fucking amazing. Part of it being because of the way it's shot, part of it being because of the production design, which is really beautiful, part of it being the acting, the performances that you're seeing from really everyone. There wasn't a bad performance in the movie. There's Joe's mother, the people Joe works with. And Joe, basically, I kind of alluded to this when I was talking about movies that it brought to mind earlier, like Old Boy and like Ghost Dog. But Joe is obviously this person who's experienced traumatic things, and he has, you know, come into a life where his career essentially is like, if the authorities have failed you, you might reach out to some people who might know some people who might have the phone number of a guy like Joe, okay? And maybe Joe can do something the cops couldn't do, right? Or maybe you're a person of power, maybe you're a person of prestige, you know, maybe you've got a problem and you, for a number of reasons, can't go to the authorities because this can't be in the press and things like that. We need to take care of this, you know, on the hush-hush, you know? Maybe you know a guy and he knows a guy and he's got a guy who has a number for a guy like Joe, right? And so then Joe takes care of your problem, right? And it seems like Joe generally specializes in rescuing kids who have been kidnapped. And, you know, generally speaking, the underlying, you know, sometimes explicit, sometimes implicit narrative, you know, in that subplot of you know, who are these kids and what's going on with them, is that they are, you know, essentially involved with child sex trafficking. All right. And it's very interesting. It's a very interesting subplot because there's, you know, there's a whole lot of stuff like in the sort of conspiracy realm stuff that I cover on my blog a lot. You know, there's the whole idea of pedogate and this ongoing story that that, you know, there is collusion in high places to allow for this kind of thing to happen and to continue to happen. And this movie totally goes right there, where, you know, he gets involved with a contract to find a child, and it soon becomes revealed that he's in way over his head, and you know, essentially there's no authorities to turn to because it's obvious that 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 they may be the ultimate problem, right? So then the movie just sort of goes from there. There's not a ton of plot to the movie, you know. We just sort of catch up with who this guy is. He goes on a mission. He ends up over his head. And then, you know, there's kind of an odd happy ending of a kind, you know. And it's really quite beautiful. And I think I do think that one of the words I saw in the review that I read on Vulture, I believe, I'm not going after this guy or this woman or this review specifically. It's just one of the only things that I looked at besides just reading a little bit more about Ramsey before I went into the movie today. But there's a phrase of like it not being as poetic as her other work, and I just don't understand why anybody would say that, because this is really, like a lot of her movies, it's not really about the specifics of the plot. It's a lot more about the characters, and it's a lot more about the cinematic experience. I mean, this movie is inherently cinematic. You know, it's not about or built like telling a story from A to B. It's just not. It's not into this literary fictional model of what a movie should be. It's what a movie should actually be. It's startling images, incredible sound. The sound in this movie is mind-blowing. This is one of those movies you have to see at a big theater because you don't want to miss out on the sound, okay? Never forget that that's the one of the most important reasons to see a movie in a theater is to hear it properly, right? It's not just to see big pictures, it's to also to hear it properly. And this is a movie where the sound design is so unbelievable. It reminds me of another movie that I thought had great sound design, which was Pan's Labyrinth. And that's going a while back. But that was another movie I saw in the same theater, the Belcourt Theater in Nashville, Tennessee. That's one of the best art house theaters in the country, one of the best independent film centers in the country. So you should check out the Belcourt if you're interested in movies. Belcourt.org, BELCOURT.org. But I saw Pan's Labyrinth there, and I'll never forget the evil general guy. There's a scene where he's like got a piece of glass that he's put up, and he's shaving with a straight razor, and the sound of the blade on his skin in a big theater with a sound system like that, it was just fucking exquisite, man. And really, really great sound design in that movie. And this movie is the same way. I mean, literally at some point there's a close-up of him crushing a green jelly bean, and you're actually sort of hearing the sound of a jelly bean being crushed. It's really good. And they do a lot of cool stuff with the edits too. The movie's edited well, but it's also, there's a lot of really cool ways that they use. It's a device I like anyway, but it's used very smartly here, where you'll hear the dialogue for the next scene beginning before you've cut from the old scene. So you're still lingering on a doorway or something, and then all of a sudden somebody's answering a phone, and then a beat, and then boom, now outside at the phone booth, da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? That kind of use of the sound and the images to sort of weave the movie together. And there's also a lot of layers of sound. There's a lot of hallucinatory moments in this movie. Again, hard to argue that it's not poetic when it's full of, like, literally full of, like, visions brought on by trauma, drugs, memory. I mean, it's a very vividly realized movie, and again, some of these images are like startling. It's an incredibly violent film. The movie is drenched in blood, literally. But that said, it's all shot in a way where you don't actually see most of the violence taking place. You know it's coming, and your chest is getting tight, right? Because Joaquin Phoenix is like a fucking Hulk in this movie. He's big, hulking dude, big shoulders, and he's all like curled over like this, and he's walking, and the sound is done in such a way that it's just like I had an understanding that it's like, man, actually Joaquin Phoenix could do a Hulk character like Marvel's Hulk, because he's got that sort of tortured, quiet, desperate thing that he can do so well. Very Bruce Banner, you know what I mean? He could do the Bruce Banner thing, but then when he turned into the Hulk, he would just be him, with his shirt off and like painted green, right? This is an idea. This is a one-man play, a Hulk one-man play starring Joaquin Phoenix. My idea, you heard it here first, so you can't take it. But the point being that he's just he seems like the kind of guy who could take some people out. You know what I mean? Not only in terms of the intensity of his personality, but in terms of the you know, he seems like a big, strong motherfucker who could fuck you up. And that's basically what he plays in this movie. And, man, I got to tell you, I thought it was fantastic. And I think of all the Lynn Ramsey movies I've seen one time, this will probably be one that I'll watch again. Because I'd watch it again right now, frankly. I'd watch it again right now. And I don't think I've ever said that about a Lynn Ramsey film. So I will disagree with anyone who says this is anything but her best movie, okay? And again, I might need to go back and see the other ones and refamiliarize myself again. And I might be off base in some of my comments because I have not gone back over the filmography to know where we are with Lynn Ramsey movies. But I know where I am right now. And where I am right now is I just got out of the theater. I just saw You Were Never Really Here. And it's one of my favorite films of the year. Oh, Isle of Dogs is what I talked about the last time. It's getting a little bit late for an Isle of Dogs review, but if you guys are interested in one, maybe leave me a message here. That would definitely encourage me to do one. It'll be, you know, a week or more since I saw the film. I think I saw it on Thursday night. I mean, not Thursday. Well, but like it was last Thursday. Maybe it was that late. But regardless, I enjoyed the movie a lot, and it's coming to the Bell Court in Nashville, Tennessee next week. So I believe on the 20th it opens. So I think that's maybe 2 Fridays from now. But it's fantastic. It's really super good. You Were Never Really Here. Highly recommended. Again, if violent movies bother you, be forewarned. If gore and blood bother you, maybe that's even more to be warned about. I don't know. I don't want to scare people away, because ultimately, like I say, this is a movie where you don't even see, I mean, you're not seeing like close-up violence occurring ever in this movie, you know? So if that sounds like it's doable to you, I think that there's a great movie there to enjoy. For me, I enjoyed it because of the violence. The violence is an incredibly important part of it. His character is defined by violence on many levels, so you got to have the violence in the movie. And you know, it doesn't bother me. So yeah, so definitely a movie I would recommend highly, for sure. You Were Never Really Here, starring Joaquin Phoenix. All the actors are great in the movie. I didn't really recognize anyone else. I can't remember there's the main young girl in the movie. She had like a European, like Eastern European sounding name. I read it in the credits, but I can't remember it here. She's a young actress, so she may not have done a lot, and if she's European, I may not have seen her in a lot if she has done a lot. So, but she's great in it. She's very good in it, and again, everybody's good in it. You know, generally speaking, Lynn Ramsey gets good performances out of her actors and works with very good actors all the time. So, so it's not surprising. You would expect it to be like that. But this movie to me is a very good movie, and it's also a good time. It's a good time to be Lynn Ramsey, because I mean, I think that there's an added attention going on to women filmmakers right now for any number of reasons. And Lynn Ramsey is a very good representative for women filmmakers. I mean, she's made this is her 4th feature, I suppose, and they're all good. For sure, they're good, and they're good, seriously good. They're not just like, oh yeah, she makes entertaining movies or she makes profitable movies. I mean, maybe making profitable movies is more important, but to me, I mean, in terms of the industry, right? But to me, you know, I want to see really great movies, and she's definitely a heavy hitter movie maker for sure. And again, I think maybe she's at the height of her powers right now. This is the only movie by her that I'm considering seeing over again. And that's not a question of quality, but it's just a question of sort of the angle of what she's looking into. And to me, this sort of lurid, urban, you know, violent, but very deeply human and caring, redemptive in a way. Not really. I don't want to stain it with the word redemptive, because it's better. It's too good to be redemptive. You know, maybe there's no redemption. and that's because we respect these characters and we don't demand that they become redeemed for us to identify with them and see ourselves in them. I'm just kind of ranting now about stuff, but I do feel like that this movie's got there's you know, it's like I said, there's kind of a happy ending, but not really. You know what I mean? It's a movie that's okay with letting you not understand every single thing that's going on, and I love that, and I respect that she respects me enough to give me that kind of film and let me have that kind of experience. And it's the kind of film too that refuses to just give you this rote storyline. You know what I mean? It just doesn't do that. None of her movies really do, as far as I remember. And that's also something I deeply respect. You know what I mean? Storytelling for storytelling's sake is fucking bullshit, man. I hate it. I don't even know what I mean by that exactly, right? And any number of things that you'll see about you know, filmmaking or songwriting or whatever, you know, in journalism, everybody's always talking about storytelling, and I'm telling you, it's a fucking trap. It's the worst thing you can do. Enough with the story time. Enough with it. It's so old fucking hat and stupid, and I hate it. So I prefer a movie that doesn't really care that much about telling me, you know, here's this conflict that we're going to solve by the end of this arc, when this character will learn something and all that. Just like, fuck all that, man. Give me a very interesting person in a very interesting situation, and then apply the sights, sounds, editing, all the things that create a cinematic experience. Now, that's a movie I want to see every time. So with that in mind, You Were Never Really Here. I was maybe never really here. I don't even know where I am right now. It's Friday afternoon. I'm going to go do some grocery shopping. Yeah, You Were Never Really Here. Very good movie, for sure. Leave me a comment if you saw the movie, or if you're interested in the movie. If you like Joaquin Phoenix's recent movies like I'm Not, or I'm Still Here, or I'm Not There, whatever that movie's called. I'm so confused with these titles, right? I'm Still Here, I think, is the Joaquin Phoenix movie, where it's like a fake documentary that he made with Casey Affleck, where he's like doing his rap career thing, which he did, like, that was basically after Walk the Line, I believe, right? So he plays Johnny Cash, gets an Academy Award nomination, and then since then has dove off the deep end to just make the weirdest movies possible, it seems. So he made I'm Still Here, or I'm Still There, whatever. Hey guys, so I lost my connection there for a second. I went ahead and plugged the phone in. I don't even know if it's actually counting because the car's not actually running. It probably pulls from the battery anyway. But anyway, so let me just finish up real quick. So if you like Joaquin Phoenix's recent movies, like The Master with Paul Thomas Anderson, which is great, or I'm Still Here, or I'm Not There, whatever it is, the movie he made with Casey Affleck, where they shoot the documentary about his rap career, Joaquin's rap career. If you like those performances he's been doing recently, then you'll dig this movie, because it's still doing the same thing with this like crazy, just intense characters and Joaquin doing Joaquin. So I really love the movie, and you should check it out too. I was never really here. You were never really there. We were never really here. Anyway, the new Lynn Ramsey film. I've said the title a bunch of times, so now I'm totally confused and I can't get it right. But You Were Never Really Here, I believe. I don't know. I got the title right in the title of the video. So anyway, yeah, check out the movie. It's at the Belcourt, I think, starting on the 20th. Go to belcourt.org if you're in Nashville and check that out. Get yourself a membership to the Belcourt while you're at it. The best visual art institution in the city, the Belcourt Theater. And everybody have a great weekend. If you have any questions, or you want to talk about Joaquin, or you want to talk about Lynn Ramsey, leave a comment or reply or whatever it is, depending on what site you're seeing this on. If you're seeing this on YouTube, or if you're seeing it on Steemit, at Mighty Joe Nolan on Steemit, leave me a reply there. And if you want to see the Isle of Dogs review that I shot the other day and had to delete it because I got the sound all screwed up on it. I'll be happy to do one of those, but I don't know that I'll do one unless some people ask me, tell me that you're interested in that, and then I'll share my thoughts. Just because that movie is it's all out now, and I can't do my instant review thing for it at this point. So anyway, some technical difficulties, but we're getting good at this, and I appreciate everybody checking out the review. Share your thoughts, and follow if you aren't already following, or subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and like it and share it and all that stuff if you would. I appreciate it. I love having somebody to talk to these movies about. So let's start the conversation here. Everybody have a great weekend.